But we need to pick a title for your episode. So here are the things I wrote down that I thought would make a good title. You get to tell us your favorite.
Okay.
What was it called again? What do you think? A lot of magical stuff going on. Just a matter of me getting there. Google Maps and Jehovah Witnesses. I don't wear pants anymore. Or sex on a roller coaster.
Oh, it's got to be one of the last three.
Yeah. I agree.
How about Google Maps and Jehovah's Witnesses?
Got it. That'll get people interested.
Yeah, exactly.
We might even get...
And I'll get to tag Jehovah Witnesses. Can you imagine what happened in YouTube when they search it and find this episode?
Awesome.
Yep.
Welcome to Season 6, Episode 46, Google Maps and Jehovah Witnesses. This is Written on the Edge. I'm Ben Sebastian, here with my co-host, S.A. Baz Collins.
Howdy.
And we're really glad you're here with us. Our guest today is Jerry Wheeler. Jerry L. Wheeler is the editor of 7 anthologies of gay erotica. His own collection of short fiction and essays, Strawberries and Other Erotic Fruits, was awarded a spot on the shortlist for the Lambda Literary Award. He has also been Lammy-shortlisted for Tented, Gay Erotic Tales from Under the Big Top, and The Bears of Winter. He lives and writes in Denver, Colorado, maintaining his review blog, Out in Print, Queer Book Reviews, and his own editing business, Write and Shine. He's recently published his first novel. Jerry, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. I love being here. I love talking to you guys.
And we get to see you, finally.
I know, right? The unveiling has begun.
Right.
It's not a thrill for me.
Well, we're thrilled.
We are. So for folks who are hearing your interview for the first time, let's give a quick how you fell into the writing profession, and then we'll talk about your new novel.
I have a journalism degree from way back when in the 1970s, back when there were journalism schools. But as far as freelance writing, I had submitted a story long time ago to an anthology about gay male obsession, and it was called. What was it called again? The Law of Desire.
Okay.
And it was edited by Greg Wharton and Ian Phillips from Suspect Thoughts Press. I was in a writing group at the time, and one of the other group members, Matt Cayley, trans guy, said, "You ought to submit to this. You ought to submit this story to this." And I'm like, "Okay, I will," because I had taken a short story to my writers group for critique. And he's like, I'm gonna send mine in. Like, okay. So I sent mine in, and I got a reply back from Greg Wharton, maybe a day or two later. And I said, wow, the rejections are coming back even quicker than usual. And they said, we love it. We'd like to print it. Matt didn't get in, but I did. And that was what started the journey. And then I went to Saints and Sinners in New Orleans for the first time, and met a couple of publishers and got some contacts together. And pretty soon the first anthology that I ever did was out, and that was Tented, Gay Erotic Tales from the Big Top, which was Circus Erotica.
Very nice.
And that's how it got started. Circus Erotica. Yes.
But not everyone can say that.
Yeah, well, you know what, though? I have to say that because I almost ran away with the circus. Cirque du Soleil actually offered me a position, and for several reasons I couldn't take it. But I always wondered, what goes on. I mean, because I got to go backstage. I got to meet all the performers. I got, so they literally took me on the tour behind the scenes. And I always wondered, what kind of things go on in the backstage of a circus? You never know, so.
Lots. I got dwarf stories. I got knife thrower stories. I got some really wonderful stuff out of that anthology. I'm very proud of it, and the other ones that I've done as well.
Mm-hmm. All right. And you've written your first novel.
I have.
Should we tell people about it?
Yes, we shall.
So let's tell people about Pangs.
Okay. Since I worked so hard on the blurb on the back, I'll just go ahead and read that to you guys, okay?
Perfect.
Unlike their blood brethren, Warner and Seth are vampires who subsist on talent. They have been enemies for centuries, competing to feed on artists with the most prodigious musical gifts, and country blues singer Wade Dixon is no exception. But the pursuit and capture of Dixon unleashes unexpected forces that carry these combatants from an earthly realm to a dangerous land of eternal night where they must work together or die alone.
Dun, dun, dun.
I know. Dun, dun, dun. I'll put the music cue in. You won't have to hear me do it.
So there's a lot to unpack there. One, I'm going to start with the vampire myth that you took and twisted and were like, nope, I'm going to make this one mine. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I did. And it was great because I got to pick and choose what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And
so
then
it's the dim sum of vampire stories.
There you go. Absolutely.
I have a friend who didn't know what that was called. She called it pointing. We're going pointing. I'll have some of that and some of that.
It was great because I could pick and choose from what part of the vampire myth I needed at the moment, and then I could discard the rest. I'm like, well, they just don't do that.
Perfect. So it sounds like there are vampires in your mythology that do subsist on blood. Mm-hmm. These two subsist on talent, specifically music, or could it be like a painting?
Specifically music, but they do meet another vampire in the other realm who subsists on written the talents of the written word.
Nice.
And that guy happens to be Edgar Allan Poe.
Ooh. I mean, why not, right?
Right.
Exactly. Did he bring the Raven?
I quote from it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good enough.
Perfect. All right. So the novel centers on these two, though, the core two?
Yes.
Excellent. And do they get back out of the dark realm, or are you going to tell me that's a spoiler answer and I can't ask that?
That's a spoiler. Spoiler. You'd have to buy a copy.
That's fair.
See, there you go.
Maybe I should just spend the entire interview with this up to my face like this.
It's a gorgeous cover.
But thank you. Matt Bright at Ink Spiral.
Oh, yay. We love Matt. Yeah, we love Matt.
And he was wonderful with the cover. He'd sent me like 5 different drafts. He's like, what do you want to see? And I said, well, I don't know if the cover I'm thinking about is workable or not. And I described it to him. He's like, no, it's not.
In a word, no.
But here's 5 other ones. What do you think? And I said, I like this one. And we did about maybe 5 drafts back and forth before we finally settled on a cover. And I'm like, I love it. It doesn't look like anything else out there, which is great because the book is not like anything else out there.
Right. All right. What else would you like people to know about it?
Is it horror or is it suspense? Is it thriller or is it all of that?
It's all of that.
Okay.
It's all of that. And there's a lot of magical stuff going on. I had so much fun writing it. The first, and it's a 3-part novel. The first part comes from a novella that I wrote that I ended my short story collection with. And I knew when I finished the novella, I'm like, I'm not done with these people, and they're not done with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, maybe there's someplace else that I can take this. And after I worked on another novel for a while, which ultimately just didn't come off, I said, why don't I go back to my vampires? And that was just about a couple of months before the pandemic started.
So is this primarily a pandemic work? I mean, obviously the novella part, the first part was earlier, but.
Yes, that's how it ended up getting finished.
Nice. All right.
So at least I came out with a product,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Exactly.
Unlike some of us who went, I just don't have the mood or the aspiration to do something right now.
Well, the funny thing about that is with the pandemic. I mean, I'm pretty much of a solitary person. My schedule is such that I don't really need to see a lot of people. I don't never go out. So the pandemic, the lockdown was nothing new for me. It was kind of like, well, the entire world is now living my schedule.
Right. Welcome to my world.
Exactly. Welcome to the world of the broke freelancer.
And every author out there who doesn't have a job.
Right.
So, okay, let's set aside pandemic weirdness, though. Did you enjoy writing long form? I mean, you're traditionally short story and novella guy.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to approach it, but I ended up working right through all of the. I ended up working through all of the plot without really even knowing what it was. I'm pretty much of a pantser. I had an idea of what the climax of each individual part of all three parts was going to be like. So it was just a matter of me getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that the concept that it was done in parts was kind of more fitting for your novella-esque? So you were able to approach the longer work by saying, okay, I'm going to tell this part, and then this part, and so on.
It enabled me to get through that, and all of a sudden I looked down and I've got, wow, I've got 60,000 words. I can almost make a book out of this.
Nice.
Who'd have thunk?
Surprise!
So I'm like, okay, all I need is another 20,000 words, and I got a book. And that's what I ended up doing. That's how I got through it.
Okay, well, since you're in the country and western kind of twang, does Dolly make an appearance? I have to know.
No. No, but I did. This book did occasion me. I wrote song lyrics for the first time.
Oh, well, there you go.
Which I had never even attempted. And since one of the characters is actually Edgar Allan Poe, I actually wrote a poem in the style of Poe.
Ooh.
And I'm not a poet by any means, but it called for it, and I'm like, well, there's nobody here to write it but me.
So what I wonder is that when you talk about it goes into a dark realm, is it kind of like the Muggle and Wizarding world kind of realm, or is it like, in other words, it's just a thinly veiled separation, or is it literally a transport into something completely different?
It's a transport into a realm of total night, total dark.
Ah, okay.
Can your vampires see in the dark? Is that an issue?
I can.
Okay.
That's helpful.
Actually, it's dark, but there's absolutely no light in this realm, but my vampires can see outlines.
Okay.
So it's kind of like bats, they can do sonar and they can
right.
Okay.
Which is interesting because that's one of the covers that I suggested to Matt. And I'm like, I need for it to look like total black, but with an outline do you think you can do that? And he's like, no, not that it's going to show up.
Fair.
And I'm like, okay. Well, that's when he misdirected me to another, to these other covers.
Gotcha. So I have a question. You're talking about how they sustain themselves on creativity or talent. What do you mean by that? And because you actually have the bloodsuckers, which is what everybody. But
Okay.
and then there's the concept in humanity where they talk about psychic vampires, people who literally are just normal human beings, but they thrive on taking down someone from a psychological standpoint. That's what they live off of. It's like the reason they get up in the morning and kind of thing. So is your talent sustaining vampire? What is that? How does that happen?
They charm their victims and then kiss them. And as they're kissing them, they suck the essence out of them. They suck the talent out of them.
Okay.
So kind of like Muse has gone bad.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. My main, the protagonist, Warner, is a little more cautious than his enemy Seth. Warner is he's a nice guy, and he believes that you don't have to drain your victims. He believes that if you sip from them slowly, they will last longer, and then they can regenerate the talent that you've already taken. Seth, however, just goes in and drains them all, so that when they emerge from an encounter with him, they can no longer play their instruments. They have no talent left. And then many of the famous ones that Seth has dried, drive themselves crazy with drug and drink because they don't know what happened.
Why they suddenly can't do it. Yeah.
Right.
Gotcha. Very intriguing. I like it.
There's some interesting concepts in the book to unpack.
Okay. Is it set in the now time? Because you said it was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So it's a modern tale. Okay. So how does social media work in the dark realm?
Social media is the dark realm.
Why isn't this lighting up? Sorry.
You had to go.
I think the only two things that I
strange things occur to me like that. Sorry.
I know that Warner does mention Google Maps and Jehovah's Witnesses a couple of times during.
Well, because those two go hand in hand.
Yes. Seth is talking about leaving his magic book spread all over the library, and then so Seth is putting them away, and Warner says, "Why? We're here in a magic realm of night. So you think there's going to be Jehovah Witnesses knocking at the door?"
And then, no. Really?
That's one of the things I really enjoyed about doing this, was taking this tale and putting in little snatches of humor here and there.
Nice.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anything else you want people to know about it?
That's about it. It's $17.95. It's available on Amazon and through my publisher, Queerspace /Rebel Satori Press.
Nice.
And they're great guys. I can't say enough about Sven Davison and Joseph Campbell, who is Sven's editor. They've been nothing but supportive and they've just been great.
It's nice when you have a publisher that believes in your work.
Right?
Yeah. Yes. And Sven certainly did. And I was so thankful to actually find these guys and work with them.
That's awesome. And yeah, their name has come up with a couple other guests, so they sound like a great hope we can get them on the show to talk to us someday too.
I'm sure Sven would love that once he gets the house back in order, because they're in New Orleans, and
oh yeah,
yeah, they got hit bad by Hurricane Ida.
Right.
So,
and must
but
be
still,
tough
throughout
trying
all
to get your
that,
life back, trying to get your life back in order, and you're still
exactly,
running a business. You know,
exactly.
you know.
And throughout all that, Sven has not dropped a beat.
Wow,
That's awesome.
That's impressive.
Yep.
So, shout out, Sven. You need to get here.
Right.
Go to a public library or something.
I'll message him.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, folks. Well, we at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. If you enjoy learning about these artists, please like and subscribe to get the alerts for new episodes.
Absolutely.
Uh,
All right. Well, what are you working on next? And is this book a standalone, or do you suddenly see a whole world for these vampires?
Some people have asked me that, and I don't really know that. I don't really know that I have too much left for them. I mean, I love the characters, and I would certainly write them again, but I don't know that there's too much for them left to do here, where they're stuck in this world. I might try to get them out, but if I'd wanted to do that, I would have written a fourth part to it.
That's fair.
So what I think I'm going to be doing is I think I'm going to be trying to resurrect the Dead Book, which is like a 15-year project at this point. And that book was prompted by a remark that was made during my late partner's funeral. During the rabbi's service, he talked about people's lives are shaped by the deaths that they experience. So I got the idea of doing a book about these two guys who met each other when they were children, and grew up to be lovers. Well, grew up to be friends and then lovers. And the book was supposed to be about the deaths that they had experienced throughout their life together. And it was supposed to be split between flashbacks and a frame story. So I've got a lot of flashbacks written, a lot of flashback stories written, but I could never find a frame story that didn't sound contrived or that I liked. So I think what I've decided to do at this point is just cannibalize what I have, and publish the flashback stories by themselves.
As more of a series of vignettes?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Sounds cool.
So right now that's my plan. However, I'm finding out that having finished the novel, there's a huge lag for me between. It's like I just looked at the computer the other day and I'm like, am I ever going to write again?
The thing is,
I can get out the blog posts for the review blog, but as far as fiction goes, right.
So I've often
must be
thought
somewhere.
It's there. I've often thought just in any creative pursuit, there's intake times and there's output times, and you just had a major output, so now you need to refuel all that. And the vampires took it out of you, so now in more ways than one. But so now you need to refuel that by taking in some art and other stories, and recharge that creativity, because it's a battery. I mean, creativity is a battery.
Right. It is.
Plus the fact that I think your characters, if you love them that much, you will find sometime down the road they'll go, "Hey, we've got more to say."
Right. Right.
So you can never say never,
So
a lot of authors have said never say never about something, and then they say never about something, and then 10 years later they're writing about the thing they said they would never do.
Exactly. That's why I say when people ask me about a sequel to Pangs, I'm like, I don't think so. Maybe.
Probably the safest.
Try to remain non-committal.
Right. Excellent.
All right. Any final words of wisdom?
No. I I think people who have final words of wisdom are really pretentious.
That's probably why so many of them said, I have to be more wise now. Wasn't I just wise back there when we started this whole thing?
Exactly. Because if I have words of wisdom, that pretends that I actually know what I'm doing, which is not correct.
Yeah, newsflash to the children. We don't know always what we're doing.
No,
we're making it up as we go along, too.
We're trying to get through this just like you are.
Exactly.
And that was wisdom.
It's what passes for it post-pandemic.
Fair enough.
Right.
Are we post-pandemic yet?
I think we can see the light, and we're praying nobody blows out the match. I think that's where we are.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually going to New Orleans. I'm going to be at Saints and Sinners in 2022, which is finally back live in person.
Mm-hmm.
So I've made my arrangements, and I'm all set to go. It'll be nice to get actually back to some sort of conference where I can get recharged. You know?
Right. Get in the thick of things again.
Yeah.
Do you want to share the dates for people who are hearing that for the first time and are thinking maybe they could go?
It is March 27th through March 30th, I believe.
Nice.
All right.
Do you have any other events planned, either online or in person?
I'm going to be reading locally at the Jefferson County Public Library sometime in February. Probably some Pride event in June. But other than that, I've got podcasts scheduled, you guys, and another podcast. Can I mention another podcast?
Yeah.
Called Writers Drinking Coffee.
I've heard about that one. It sounds like it's a good one.
Yeah. So I've got those lined up. Just trying to do the publicity work for Pangs, which is, if I when I was talking about not being able to write, certainly doing the publicity for the book that you've just written is time consuming enough.
Yep. Busy work, check all the boxes, follow up, all of it.
Yep.
Talk to the right people. Yeah.
So which place, whether social media or website, is the best for people to follow what you're up to?
I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Both of those are good.
Okay. And we'll have all the links attached to this episode.
Yep.
Awesome. All right, folks. This was Written on the Edge. It's produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our listen stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.rotepodcast.com. If you enjoy learning about artists, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. We'd like to extend a huge thank you to Jerry Wheeler for joining us. Jerry, thank you so much.
Thanks. It was lovely. I really enjoyed talking to you guys.
I'm going to do the Carol Merrill thing with you showing the book.
Very nice.
The kids are going to go, who's Carol Merrill?
All right, listeners, pick up Pangs, sit back for your new vampire story, and be ready for a nice, good read. We'll talk to you all again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, what's that? Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.